Today, we'll take a look at the third very important lesson we learn from the Bhagavad Gita is excellence. Yesterday, we took a look at contentment or peace of mind, samatvam yoga uchyate. Today, we'll take a look at yogaha karmasu kaushalam, how to get to that dexterity of action, that expertise in action, perfection in action. It goes to the credit of our forefathers that they conceived of perfection, found a way to get there, and prescribed a logical, scientific, sure way method of getting there. The first thing we learn is that excellence lies within. It does not lie in getting an IIT, IIM degree. It doesn't lie in going to Harvard or MIT. This doesn't mean that you should not go there. But what it means is, unless you can tap into that perfection that is within you, that you are already carrying with you, no amount of degrees or knowledge from outside can help you succeed. So, having accepted that excellence lies within, what do we need to do? The first thing we learn is that action is a must. It is Arjuna who in this chapter and the next chapter, in the second chapter, tells Krishna, let us leave this battlefield and go to the Himalayas and meditate. Arjuna is advocating in action. Krishna says, no, you have to be here and find your salvation here in and through action. So action is a must. Inaction is not an option. The next question is, how do we act? We are also acting, but we neither find excellence in action nor do we find happiness, and perfection is a far cry. So the entire third chapter, in fact the entire Bhagavad Gita, is about how to find that perfection in and through action. So the masters tell us that there are three types of action that you can perform. The highest quality of action is niyatam karma. Therefore, in the third chapter, Krishna exhorts Arjuna and through him to all of us. Niyatam kuru karmatvam karmajayohya karmanaha sharira yatra pichate. So, niyatam is obligatory duty. All you have to do is just perform your obligations. Do what you have to do. That's all. Now that's easier said than done. All of us know what our duties are. We don't need the Gita to tell us what our duties are. We know that as a member of the family, we have certain duties. As a citizen of the city, we have certain duties. As a citizen of the country, of the world, as a human being, we are clear about our obligations. But then, we are unable to fulfill these obligations. Why? What comes in the way? Desire, correct. Desire comes in the way. And the moment desire comes and messes up your personality, you move away from your obligations into kamya karma, which is the second type of activity that you perform. And you enter the murky area of desire. See, as long as you are performing your niyatam karma, whatever be your duty, you are free, vimukta. And the performance of your obligations frees you from the bondage of your existing vasanas. But the moment you latch on to desire, you get bound, further bound. As it is you're bound, you get further entangled with the world, with the object of desire, with all sorts of unnecessary things. And then what happens? When your desires mount to such an extent that they cannot be fulfilled through ethical, moral, upright methods, then you cross the line. You cross the line and perform actions, nishiddha karma, prohibited actions. Prohibited by whom? Your own conscience. Actions that violate your own conscience, the moment you perform that, you are in deep trouble. And nowadays you find it is not the poor, it is not the deprived who are into these nishiddha karmas. It is the privileged class. It is the affluent classes who are doing it. And the other day there was an article and it's not only in India, all over the world it's like that. It is the people who are rich, who are affluent, who are educated, who are doing all sorts of things. What got into Hansi Cronje, one of the greatest captains, cricketing captains of the world, South African captain? What got into him to get into match fixing? What prompted Ramalinga Raju to perform activities that landed him in jail for a couple of years? And not to talk about all the people who are right now in jail. What gets into you? You have enough and more. Why should you cross the line? And this line is indicated in the Ramayana when Sita, suddenly what got into her, God knows, this is it. Some desire creeps into your system and then finishes you off. Sita was perfectly happy as long as her attention was on Rama. Rama represents Atman. As long as your attention is on the higher, you are supremely happy and content, irrespective of what you have or don't have. Whether she was enjoying the luxuries in the palace in Ayodhya or going through the deprivation of Vanvas, she was perfectly happy because her attention was on Ram. But suddenly, something got into her, just a thought. And that's what happens to us. Just a thought enters us. And that thought has the capacity to rip you apart. She saw a golden fleeting deer and said, I want that. And that was the beginning of the end as far as Sita was concerned. So Rama went, knowing full well that it was not what she wanted, and there was some guile in that. Sure enough, it was a Rakshasa in the form of a deer. So when Rama killed that Rakshasa, let out a cry imitating Rama's voice. Even in death, even in destruction, the sense objects cheat us, trick us. So Sita thought that Ram was in trouble and prevailed upon Lakshman to leave her and go. Rama had told Lakshmana, whatever you do, don't leave her unguarded, because she was the one who was vulnerable, weak. But she insisted, and you all know when a lady insists, you can't help but give in. So he said, okay, I'll go. But before going, he drew 3 lines and said, whatever you do, Sita, don't cross this line. And these 3 lines are the lines dictated by your conscience. 3, because at the physical, emotional, and intellectual levels. But she crossed even that. And so do we. We are constantly crossing the line and performing nishiddha karma. So, it's the desire that has to be controlled, held together, guided properly. Otherwise, you can't perform your niyatam karma, you can't perform your obligations. If you can't perform your obligations, you can't rise to the highest level of perfection. Now let's take a look at the same actions from a different perspective. The 3 kinds of actions are selfish, unselfish, and selfless. Selfish actions are actions that are prompted by selfish desires, desire to benefit only yourself. This is something we are very familiar with, I don't need to explain. All of us are steeped in selfish action. What's in it for me? How do I benefit? Only then are you interested in the action. If there is no benefit perceived, you are not interested. Unselfish action is an action that is prompted by a desire nevertheless, but a desire to benefit others. What the Gita calls as loka sangraha, for the benefit of humanity. At least we must come up to that level, where the attention shifts from yourself to others. From, as we saw it the other day, from profiteering to offering. From what can I grab to how may I serve? And that's a wonderful progression. There are several people who are genuinely working very hard for the upliftment of the poor, for tribal people, for providing food to the needy, so on and so forth. But the problem is, you still get stuck to the world because you are riding on desire. Because the action is desire prompted. So selfish actions results in more selfish desires being accumulated in your system. Unselfish action result in more unselfish desires being added. But the purpose of action is to purify your system of desire. So both fall short. What must we do then? Selfless actions. Actions not prompted by desire. Actions that are obligatory. So you come back to niyatam karma. Now the question that arises in your mind is, how can I perform an action where there is no desire at all? There has to be a desire for you to perform action. If you did not have a desire to learn the Bhagavad Gita, you would not have come here this evening. So what are we talking about? So what it is when there is no desire, there is no action. This is called as tamasic state. The rajasic state is where you're full of desires and you're performing desire-prompted actions. But because the desires cause mental agitations, the selfishness causes mental agitation. When the mind is agitated, the intellect can't think straight and actions are flawed. So therefore, you commit mistakes. And this is what we all experience. Whenever we act, we commit some mistake or the other. In fact, we're constantly committing mistakes because the mind is agitated. The mind is all over the place. The best quality of action is where you transcend desire. What do you mean by transcend desire? Rise above the desire. Pick up a higher desire. A higher ideal. So, this level of no desire is where you find youngsters nowadays, the whole day they laze around. They wake up at 12, 1 o'clock. I don't mean all young people. Some. There's no ambition, no desire, because they know whether they work or not, their basic needs are going to be taken care of. Lazy, wasters. This is tamas. No desire, no action. The second, rajas, is where you're overcome with greed. You know, there was a real estate baron, a Jewish gentleman in America, who was a survivor of the concentration camps during the Second World War. And he started from zero, scratch, built up a huge fortune. And then he got greedy. So he entered into deals which were shaky and eventually lost all his money. Everything went back again to zero. And when he was interviewed by a business magazine and was asked, what is the cause of your downfall? He said, very simple, one word, greed. It is greed that gets us down. But if you transcend desire and you work with a higher ideal, you achieve the impossible. Even in business. There's a company manufacturing automobile components. And in the area of automobiles and automobile components, India was nowhere in the picture. Quite a few years back, they decided that they were going to shift their attention from mere profit to upgrading their quality. And they did it so magnificently that they won the Deming Prize. The Deming Prize is the equivalent of the Nobel Prize in manufacturing. And suddenly the world woke up and said, where is India in this? And that company, after they won the Deming Prize, instead of again leveraging it to increase their profits, they went to the other smaller automobile component manufacturers and said, if you're interested, we will share our knowledge with you. We will train you to upgrade your quality. And the very next year, 8 other companies won the Deming Prize. They took the world by storm. This is what happens when you have a higher ideal. You achieve the impossible. During the independence movement, what was motivating the people, leaders and followers, was not to bag ministerships, not to get my wife to become a minister or daughter to become a minister, which is what is happening nowadays. It was to serve, to sacrifice, to work for truth and justice, for the welfare of the country and the countrymen. And they surely achieved the impossible. They themselves didn't think that they would get independence so quickly. When they asked Gandhiji, he said, you are the jewel in the crown, in the British crown, because India was supplying all the wealth to Britain. And he said, you think we'll just walk out of here? And Gandhiji said, yes, you will have to walk out of India. And that's exactly what happened. Not a shot was fired. No problem whatsoever. No riots, no shooting. They simply walked out. This is because of a higher ideal. Where is that? Where are those ideals gone? Where are the high principles gone? How have we, in a short span of 60, 70 years, completely gone downhill? Because greed has overtaken us. Desire has overtaken us. We have to go back to our ancient scriptures and discover the value of service and sacrifice. So as we saw the other day, you chase an object of desire and it will run away from you. You lose. Let go of desire, you gain. So what do you learn here? That desire, in fact, is the greatest obstacle to your obtaining object of desire. All you have to do is let go of the desire and work dedicatedly for a higher cause. You'll get it. 50 years ago, Japan was just a collection of islands. They were not in the picture at all as far as anything was concerned. They were just German cars and American cars. And then the Japanese auto industry picked itself up. Everyone from the chairman of the company down to the lowest worker was dedicated to the nation. They felt they were working, that they were not just manufacturing a car, they were working for the honor of Japan, for the pride of Japan. And therefore it is, even till this day, people swear by Japanese cars. The defects in a Japanese car are absolutely minimum. Problems that arise in a Japanese car are absolutely minimum. The other day someone was telling me, up to 50,000 kilometers, you won't find one squeak, one problem. And what was the condition of our ambassadors and Fiats? There was a joke that a bullock cart had to go to the showroom to bring the ambassador out. That's the difference between rising above desire and riding on desire. A musician, with every performance that he gives, must be dedicated to the cause of music. Must be dedicated to the fact that I must present the best that music has to offer. And the purpose of music is to uplift you, uplift your soul. It's not to impress you with what I have to offer. As Pandit Dinkar Kaikini used to say, the purpose of music is not manoranjan, is not entertainment, but it's atmaranjan. is to touch your soul and to lift your spirits. Sport. Every sports person, particularly who goes up to the international level, must be dedicated to his team or to the country. The highest is God. Like in that movie, what is it, Chariots of Fire? The athlete, the guy who's running for the Olympic, he says, God made me to run, and I will run for God. That's all there was. He wasn't running for personal glory. He wasn't running for the gold. He wasn't even running for his country. He was just running because God made him to run, and he must run for God. What a fine thought to have. Does it ever strike us that what enabled me to sing or play or do business or whatever it is God?